Hi, my beautiful. Hello, YouTube.
Hello, world.
Hello, world. So this is our first video.
And you think we are friends, but we really not.
Hello, everybody. My name is Solaia.
And I'm Shayna.
It's copyright.
Iris Archive.
Iris Archive.
Iris Archive.
Lost in Translation. It is arguably one of the most relevant and genuine films of all time, despite the fact that it was made almost 20 years ago. Being one of our favorite films, it was written and directed by Hollywood's very own Sofia Coppola, film industry royalty, notorious for her debut role in The Godfather Part 3.
In 1999, she made her debut as a director with Virgin Suicides, starring Coppola's pride and joy, Kirsten Dunst. Frankly, she has quite the obsession with her. Perhaps she blackmails her or kidnaps her into being part of all her films.
Nobody knows.
Anyways, moving on. Terrible joke. One after another, Coppola created box office hits and has fought long and hard to redeem herself. An extremely well-earned redemption.
Sofia Coppola's 2003 film, Lost in Translation, is a masterpiece. Her pièce de résistance. It depicts an unexpected and platonic relationship between Charlotte, played by ScarJo herself, and Bob Harris, played by Bill Murray. Charlotte is a recent philosophy graduate from Yale, unsure about what she wants to do in her life, lost in the world. Bob Harris is a middle-aged, washed-up movie star who was famous once upon a time. They both find themselves in Tokyo against their will, Charlotte accompanying her photographer husband, and Bob shooting a boring yet rewarding whiskey commercial.
They are lost souls who feel isolated in this alien world of Japan, and in each other's company, they find a deep special sense of solace, belonging, and mutual understanding. Sleepless nights, lazy afternoons, karaoke, and shabu-shabu, all in search of some sort of meaning to life. We've noticed that this film takes on and plays with multiple different perspectives, lenses, and gazes. Not in the literal sense, of course, but in a much more subtle way. That brings us to
It is no secret that Lost in Translation has received backlash for being racist. Racist in the sense that it reinforces the negative stereotypes of Asians. And this controversy is especially heightened given that Sofia Coppola, who wrote and directed the film, is a white American. On a side note, she was nominated for Best Director in the Academy Awards and won Best Original Screenplay for this film. Some argue that throughout the length of the film, Japan is used as the mere backdrop behind which the main storyline takes place, and Japanese people as gags which reinforce negative stereotypes.
Some go as far to say that this contributes to systemic racism and the myth that only white people have complex thoughts and lives, which is a lie that the Western media often perpetrates. This film pokes fun at Japanese people's accents, specifically the stereotype of Asians mixing up their L's and R's, which is shown in this scene.
My stockings. Leave them. Leave my stockings. Yes, please. Leave them.
What?
Leave them. Hey, leave my stocking.
Hey, lip them. What?
Lip them, like this. Lip them.
Rip them?
Lip, yes.
You want me to rip your stockings?
Yes, rip my stockings, please.
Rip your stockings?
Yes,
You want me to rip
please,
your stockings?
please,
Oh.
please.
All right, I'm going to rip your stockings.
Yes.
And you tell Mr.
Yes.
Kazoo, you know, we had a blast.
Oh, no, Mr. Harris. Oh, my God. Don't touch me. Mr. Bob Harris. Don't touch me. Just leave my stocking. Oh, no, Mr. Harris.
The scene feels as if it were put in for the sole purpose of comedy. Charlotte even points it out here.
An article by the Stanford Daily states that, in the movie, Japanese men frequently shout, dance, and use unnatural vocal inflections when speaking English. They also read explicit manga on subways and play loud arcade games. Copious shots of Charlotte staring at these characters are littered throughout the movie, juxtaposing the Asian characters with the baffled-looking white protagonists. Coppola clearly wants viewers to side with the normal white protagonists and think of the Japanese characters as strange. Asians are the butt of the joke. They must be labeled strange for the white protagonists to be likable in comparison.
Perhaps, as some argue, the film takes on a quote-unquote white gaze. A white gaze that looks down on other races. Japanese sexuality is weird. Japanese TV is weird. Japanese food is good, but Japanese tastes are weird.
But on the other hand, Lost in Translation isn't necessarily racist. Coppola doesn't intend for the rest of the world, in this case, Japan, to revolve around white Americans. Rather, she wants to lend us a view of how a foreigner sees Japan. This was how she, as a white American, saw this country. Is the presence of explicit manga on subways inherently racist? And come on, loud arcade games aren't really racist, given that Japan has such a strong video game culture.
As for the accent, I can see why it upsets people. It was something I questioned myself, as their accent used as jokes were repetitive and somewhat irritated me when watching the film. The two main characters were left confused by their accents, leading to miscommunication, hence the idea of being lost in translation. At times, it felt like I started a southern accent. At times, it felt like the film was laughing at Japanese characters instead of with them. But at the same time, many non-native English speakers have an accent. I don't think it's unnatural per se. I mean, if everyone in Lost Translation didn't have an accent, I would consider that whitewashing.
Why Tokyo? You wrote the script, so you created Tokyo.
Yeah, I spent time there in my 20s, and it always made a great impression on me. There's nowhere like it that I've ever been to, and it's so strange and exciting, and I always wanted to do a film there.
Sofia Coppola had spent time in Tokyo and fell in love with the city. Through this film, she wanted to capture her personal experiences and evoke the magic she experienced in this foreign place. In fact, Yasuhisa Hirata, a Japanese film critic, writes that in the United States, some people were concerned that the film might appear as anti-Japanese. Despite that fact, the film neither tries to dissolute Tokyo nor investigates it. The peculiarity and wonder of the city is accurately reflected. Above all, there is wonderful humor and breathtaking acting from Bill Murray. We are not so narrow-minded to criticize such a great film. Narrow-minded is the right word.
Yes, Hollywood is infamous for stereotyping Asians and Asian culture, but Lost in Translation is not such a film. Instead, it's a film that explores a relationship between two foreigners as they grapple with frustration and genuine confusion, journeying through this foreign land. Who has not experienced that when they travel overseas? I think it perfectly captures the feeling and experience of traveling to Tokyo for the first time. That is otherworldly. Coppola, as an American, is portraying the film from her perspective, the perspective of an outsider from the West. Bob and Charlotte, as well as Coppola, are Americans. They share the same perspective, so they want us, the audience, to experience their view. Bob and Charlotte are our only links to this world.
So on one hand, this film isn't necessarily or doesn't intend to be racist. But on the other hand, racism is something that runs so deep in Hollywood and their portrayal of cultures and people that it's almost inevitable. It is a pressing matter that we must all be aware of and improve within this industry. Indisputably, changes must be made.
Men look at women, women watch themselves being looked at. This is a quote from John Berger's iconic book, Ways of Seeing. We can draw parallels with this quote in Lost in Translation's opening scene. Charlotte is gazed upon from behind in a sheer pink underwear. In the first few moments, one may come to the conclusion that she is being sexualized.
Charlotte is both a spectacle and a mysterious object. But no, in fact, she isn't being sexualized. Why is this so? Throughout the film, Coppola provokes and challenges the audience to reconsider their ideas on the portrayal of women in cinema. Feminist film theorist Laura Mulvey, in her 1975 essay Visual Pleasure and Narrative Cinema, argues that perspectives in visual media are often built from the viewpoint of a heterosexual male, where women are viewed through this lens. The result is that women are often depicted in a sexualized way, where their self-worth is judged based on their appearance. In English, women are viewed as objects of male desire. Women have often been viewed as the submissive characters in film and visual media in countless ways.
Perhaps this is what's happening in this scene. Perhaps it is playing a role in objectifying women. However, Sofia Coppola turns the tables when the scene is held for nearly 30 seconds, a considerably long amount of time. Our attention is then held on Charlotte's leg movements, presenting an overall raw display of her body. The shot lasts so long it becomes awkward almost. It challenges, questions the audience's participation in the film. Our participation in gazing into the film. We are playing an active part in observing.
So, Coppola uses these tropes of mainstream cinema, i.e. the over-sexualized woman, to force us to take a step back and consider our expectations in that form. Though the shot initially portrays Charlotte in the male gaze and the quote-unquote object of desire, the fact that the shot is held for so long, it almost dismantles that notion. This is further emphasized when Charlotte is sometimes portrayed half-dressed, but is never sexualized. It's normal, a part of her everyday life. She listens to self-help audiobook, decorates the room, and stubs her toe like any regular human being does. It is exactly the same concept as going in the shower with your clothes on. Like, no one does that. Unless... In this film, she is allowed to be a whole human being with her own thoughts, with her own wanderings, and her own musings.
Don't call me, okay?
Yeah, okay.
All right, listen,
okay.
I'm under Evelyn Waugh.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, arigato.
Yeah. Mushi mushi.
Evelyn Waugh.
What?
Evelyn Waugh was a man.
Oh, come on, she's nice. What? Not, you know, not everybody went to Yale. Oh, it was just a pseudonym, for Christ's sake.
Why do you have to defend her?
Well, why do you have to point out how stupid everybody is all the time?
I thought it was funny. Forget it.
She is even painted as an intelligent young woman in sharp contrast to Kelly. Perhaps in some ways, this film wants us to deconstruct Charlotte's beauty by recognizing her as an intelligent, educated woman, able to wear underwear without being a sexual object. But, on the other hand, she is presented as a lonely wife, abandoned and cast off by her working husband. Speaking of her husband, Charlotte is later depicted in the same underwear in her hotel room with him. But what I find remarkable is that how mundane that scene is. In this scene, we do not see her objectified or sexualized in any way by his gaze. In fact, he seems immune to her charm, perhaps distracted by his burgeoning career as an up-and-coming photographer.
So the film does not take on a generic male gaze. Instead, it compels us to question our role and our assumptions in this story.
Throughout her films, Coppola subtly creates feelings of nostalgia in her iconic fever dream scenes. She skillfully hypnotizes her viewers into the character's perspective, giving us a very sincere window into their feelings and emotions without any dialogue. Like the evil genius she is, Coppola is able to numb our minds. She is quite literally trapping us in this scene, forcing us to be a part of the character's experience. In Lost in Translation, there is actually little use of dialogue, and most of the film's beauty and essence is conveyed through Charlotte and Bob's actions, blended with Coppola's magnificent cinematography, as she develops a fulfilling emptiness. In scenes where Charlotte sits by her window, Coppola evokes a sense of nothingness. Alone with her thoughts, Charlotte searches for the missing piece in her life. Rather than confiding to her husband about her troubles, Charlotte prefers to be without his presence, except she enjoys Bob's presence. The true intentions behind these scenes are what pulls the viewer back into reality from Coppola's encapsulation.
Finally, this is where we land. The iconic whisper scene that wraps up Lost in Translation so beautifully. We have been taken through this journey of two lost souls in Tokyo, finding solace in each other's company. It is an intimate, personal journey, yet we, the audience, were there the whole time. We gazed at nearly every aspect of this blooming relationship. But in this scene, Bob Harris inaudibly whispers something in Charlotte's ear before bidding goodbye. The audience does not hear. In fact, even Sofia Coppola didn't know what Bill Murray said. The scene was improvised. But somehow, after Bob whispers, the two characters are left beaming, whole, complete, happy. The whisper holds incredible value, and it is left open to our interpretation. We aren't meant to know what he said. It is a small gap in the story that the audience has to fill in, making an already personal journey even more personal. Here, something else gets lost in translation. To us, but not to the characters. It is as if this final interaction needed us to not hear what was said in order for the characters to depart in peace. The audience must be an active and imaginative participant in this film. We are not passive watchers. Whether it is Coppola's use, or better yet, absence of dialogue, people, or even reality, the viewers, whether we like it or not, are a part of Bob and Charlotte's journey. The absence of so many things presented in the film makes it a thought-provoking, surreal watch for us.
Lost in Translation is a story gazed upon in many ways. Unlike a traditional Hollywood plot with a happy ending, Sofia Coppola leaves us with an unhappy yet satisfactory ending. Truly bittersweet.
But if there was one takeaway from this video, other than the fact that, perspectives really matter in a film, it would be that if we keep judging every work of art through today's unreasonably high standards, we're going to miss out on a great deal of just artistic and cinematic masterpieces.
And that's it.
Do we have to say thank you? It's okay, we'll just write it.
We'll just leave it there.
We'll just write it in the description.
Oh my god, yay!
Did we get it? Do you want to do it again?
No.